Good day to you, ladies and gentlemen. This is your brother and friend MC Liki Liki welcoming you to today's edition of Isthmus Daily Rendezvous. This is still Isthmus TV, and we are apologizing for that long break that we have taken to bring this program your way for some time now. All right, today we are going to have an interesting discussion based on the event that took place 2 days ago. Now, globalization, the beauty of globalization is the fact that the entire globe can function as an organic whole, where all its components can directly or indirectly affect its smooth and beneficial running. All right, 2 days ago, precisely on the 12th of June rather, we commemorated what is known as International Labour Day, and for us in Nigeria, it was also known as our Democracy Day. And today we want to look at the theme of these events, these two events, this historical, epochal, global event that happened recently, and how it affects the people that live in Nigeria in particularly, and children all over the world, especially in developing countries. All right, so this year's theme for International Labour Day is red card to child labor, fair play to children, and decent work for adults. A red card for child labor. All right. It is understandable that this team, it's something that the organizing body or the body in charge wants to see implemented in all the parts, in all the countries of the world. And what we are asking is what has been the mitigating factors that has hampered or that's limited the implementation or the realization of these lofty goals in developing countries? That's the question we want to ask. When you say red card, it brings, it points to what we know as know in football as an automatic chasing away of a player from the football field. It's something that you do compulsorily, to a player that sees his end to a particular football match. Okay? All right. So, if the organizing body, that's the International Labour Organization, is saying that we want to see an end to child labor, the question we want to ask ourselves is, has the ILO fully, addressed the challenges that make children to, or that compel parents to make their children to work in situations and circumstances that is injurious to them? That's the question we should be asking ourselves. And statistics have proven that an estimated 130 million children remain trapped in child labor worldwide, with nearly 54 million exposed to hazardous conditions. Of course, this is a very, you know, uh, touching statistics. In spite of the state and spate of civilization in our time, in our contemporary time, that children are still suffering, especially in developing countries. So we are looking at the various factors that has allowed this ugly trend to continue to be perpetrated in most countries. Now, we also have some questions we want to ask the organizing body before we delve into the second part of this, discussion today. And if you want to be a part of what we are doing today in our studios, you can call the number 0915 222 8223. All right? 0915 222 8223. All right. So, such factors as unemployment and underemployment of parents of the children that are sent to go and work in these factories? Has it been properly and adequately nipped in the bud? That's the first question to ask. I don't know if you go back down memory lane, especially in the West, after the World Wars and then, during the Great Depression and then the transition from agrarian to industrial revolution, those are the things that, contributed to the factor of, child labor. All right. And those of us that are in the field of literature, we know that was the motivation that was very, very glaring in the works of William Blake, writers like William Blake and um, his contemporaries. But the question is this: how has the organizing body, the body in charge, the ILO, ensured that these lofty themes that they come up with every year in, year out, is not just mere semantics? I studied English language and understand that, when we bring up mantras like this, they don't go beyond being, rhetorics. You don't see the actualization and realization of these lofty, like what we have, they said Millennium Development Goals, social development goals, but these things have remained a document, a blueprint. It hasn't been implemented in most countries because we still have cases, verifiable cases of people. In fact, I'm going to share some of my experience, in the course of this discussion today because, I stayed in Abuja for some time and then I'm just imagining if I've been someone who is married with children, for some period, I came back to Abuja about 4 to 5 years ago, and I started looking for a government paid job. Just forgive me, I'm just being truthful. That's an honest thing that happened. I was going from one parastatal to parastatal, and then I was directed to a particular office known as Common Service, you know. So I got there, and they said I should submit my documents, and I submitted my credentials, and I left. So I started coming back periodically to ask them if there's been anything. They said I shouldn't worry, I shouldn't worry. So I was just imagining if I'm someone who is married with children, and then I needed the assistance of the government to survive that period, what would have been the fate of my children? Wouldn't they have been forced to go and look for how to assist the family to survive? So that's what we are saying. When parents who are responsible for their kids' welfare, their children's welfare, are in a condition where they cannot take care of them, would you still be talking about red card to child labor? Of course, that is an impossibility. That's what we are saying. So, has the government supported the private sector enough to the extent that they can, cater for, the employment needs of adults who can take care of the children that are in our society today? That's the question we're asking. It's not about coming up with lofty mantras, red card to child labor. Who is going to implement it? What have we done to ensure that child labor will finally be kicked out in our generation? All right? Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, the second factor is the spate of poverty and desperation that is very palpable in our society today. You know, what can you can hardly in my vicinity where I stay, in my society here, especially in Imo State here. Since I came back, I relocated back to this place. I've not felt the presence of any international body, the ILOs and all the UN or all the UNDPs and all those things. What are they doing? Of course, this is a sovereign nation, I know, but there are some interventions that these global organizations or carry out in different countries. I haven't seen any, you know. And then, despite of illiteracy, sometimes, especially if you go to the suburbs, the rural areas, of this country, you will find out that it's still alarming. When you say education for all by year 2020 or 2010, it wasn't realized. We still have children who are out of school. So what is the United Nation, or not United Nation now, the International Labour Organization doing to ensure that that children will not participate in these hideous and hectic activities anymore? Of course, you see, people who are hungry, you can go to any extent to see that they survive. That's not a given factor. All right, you see desperation. You see they want to do it, even when you as an employer, have pity on them and said you can't do it. Do you understand? We need to put food on the table. So that's the next consideration. Of course, you have crises in the family as a result of by divorce and all that. You know, adults or couples who have problems in their marriage, and you have their children fearing for themselves. So you're listening. So that is a factor that has to be, you know, uh, taken care of. Now, we would say that this is not the job of the island, but what I'm asking in essence is what this partnership that they have with NGOs and then independent nations, is it yielding the desired fruit? That's the question to be asked. It hasn't yielded, in my in my own judgment of the reality of on ground. It hasn't really yielded the fruit that we want to see, right? And then there is also the other factor of cultural belief, the belief system of the people. For instance, if you go to the up north, even when you tell them to send their children to school or their marriages, although the situation has started, being stemmed now, be brought under control, and parents have started, especially literate ones, have started, agreeing to send their children to school. You find out that their belief system, um, strongly works against, education. So, what has been done? What are the things that have been done to, nip that situation, to, educate those, people who are living in those hinter areas, right, hinterland, to embrace all these lofty rhetorics that we are, bringing out every by. All right. So moving on, we also have the issue of lack of, development has not really taken its roots in most developing. That's what we call them, developing countries. We still struggle, to get it to have stable electricity. Steady pipe-borne water is even a problem. You have to, work very hard to generate your own electricity and then get your own water that you're going to drink. You see, these are the factors. We are still struggling with these things. So when you say red card to child labor and acceptable and a decent work environment for adults, we're asking what what are the things that have been done to ensure that we realize, these things in our time? Okay, so if you're at home and you want to participate in what we're doing, you can just call the number 091 522 And this is still Isthmus TV, and I'm your brother and friend MC Liki Liki and or Ogochoku or Kafura Amos. Now we are moving straight to the second segment of this discussion. Um, the same day in Nigeria was marked as our democracy day. All right. Of course, we know that democracy has stayed, uninterrupted in our country. We are celebrating 27 years of democracy. All right, uninterrupted democracy in our country. It's a big achievement. This is the longest period we've had such a thing. And then we are now asking some pertinent questions. All right. Now, going back, the theme of the democracy lecture that was delivered by our own secretary to this to the government of the Federation, distinguished Senator George Akume. All right, where he advised Nigerians to stand up for democracy. All right. Mm-hmm. So we want to look at what he said during that lecture and then find a way we can contribute, in our own little way to what, our government is doing. So they said Nigerians must play an active role, or he said rather, not they said, he said, Nigerians must play an active role in strengthening democratic institutions and safeguarding the country's hard-earned civil rule. Okay? Okay. All right. Do you think it is the responsibility of Nigerians, to safeguard, this hard-earned democracy or civil rule that we have? Is it not the duty of the government? Is it the government who has the responsibility? Of course, we have to be law-abiding citizens. That's a given factor. As and I like Nigerians for that. They are obedient. We are obedient people. We do not look for trouble. But what we are asking is, the government, are you throwing the responsibility back to us? You know, you said we should uh, work hard to strengthen the democratic institutions and safeguard the country's hard and civil rule. What we are asking is, are we the ones that will, strengthen the institutions? Is it not the government who employ the people who man these institutions? We do not have any say. It's the government that determines what happens in these institutions. And they are the ones that would, bring in the right peg for, they call it square peg in square holes. Okay, so that's it. This is the government that will be held responsible. We are not the ones that should be held responsible. Okay, and then he also emphasized the issue of the integrity of the electoral system. Of course, the question still goes back to the government. What we are trying to advise the government to do is to accept the responsibility for all the troubles and wahalas we have in this nation. The leaders are the ones to accept because everything, the policies are made by them, its implementation will be carried out by them. We don't have any say per se. We don't have. What we have to do is to be law abiding and then discharge our duties as and when due. There's nothing else we can do. So when they said we should defend the hard and say, who are the people that will sponsor the hooligans that will take away or hijack the election materials on the day of election? Of course, we find out it won't be ordinary men, ordinary citizens like us. So please, what we are saying is, let the government take back that responsibility. We are not going to be the ones to, take care of all these things we want to do. Now, as election is around the corner, and then candidates have started emerging in almost all the political parties. We don't have anything against any political party, of course. We don't even have anything against the ruling god, the incumbent government. What we're saying is, let everyone accept responsibility for what they should accept responsibility for. That's all. That's just a little contribution we want to make today. And then we want to take a little time to look at the mantra of this administration, renewed hope. Whilst we commend our president, His Excellency President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. In fact, I'm one of the people that predicted that he was going to win that election back in 2023. You know, because going by the situation on the ground, I said no, no, no. If this is what we have, he's going to win. And he came out, the winner of the election. Okay, so renewed hope. What we want our president to tell us, or to work hard to implement, is what is really renewed hope. If you look at hope as a term or as a word, that's expectation. Do you want us to continue to have expectation of the good things that will happen? When will the good things start happening? We're not saying that you're not doing anything. No, not what we're saying. But when we want our political system to change from this election that we are going to have. This is not the time that you will come out and throw a bogus slogan to us and expect us to accept it. We want to ask you some questions. When are we going to start seeing the fruits? If you start good expectation, of course, that's wonderful. But we want to see the actualization and realization of this hope. So as we are counting down to the beginning of campaign and all those things, politicians too should take note. We have become enlightened a bit. In as much as we are suffering, and then we have continued to accept our fate. But we should look at what you are throwing to Nigerians as what you want to come and achieve when you are finally elected into power. We are not saying that what are they, but look at it very well. When you say renewed hope, that means what you are saying, you have a renewed, we should have another lease of positive expectation. But when it remains expectation for a long time, don't you think we will become despondent and dejected? Of course we will. We will. All right? So, where I currently stay, we do not have electricity. This is up to 1 year, more than 8 months or thereabout, no electricity. Who is responsible? We still have hope that one day power will be restored. So what should we do? The water we drink, we are the ones that pump it. We still have hope. So President, please, when we want people to look at, what they tell us they want to do, because when they will start throwing up their mantras, the political mantras for campaign, we will want to be asking them questions. We will demythalize, or what they call demystify it, disambiguate it, to actually find out what should be done. Of course, kudos to the president. The NDDC has recently tarred the road that we have in our area, of course. That is a product of renewed hope agenda. We give you kudos for that. We accept everything that you do, we acknowledge it. But the ones that we have not seen, we will still continue to tell the government that this is what we want, okay? All right. Okay, so moving on today, the next question we want to ask is this. They said we should fight hard to, protect this civil road that we have. We're looking at the agencies of government. Now, I had a unique experience with BOI, Bank of Industries, and NEL Fund. I'm a PhD student here. And I finance my own education. And I took time to ask the NEL Fund, the National Law Fund, how can you assist me to get money that I'm going to use to finance my research? What I got was silence, blunt silence, up to today. And my research has remained half done. I have not completed it. So, what is the National Loan Fund for? What is it for? Who did they cater their educational needs in this country? Why do they cater for their education? Listen, we have to become. The thing is, have we become sincere enough to tell Nigerians to continue to persevere? Okay, if that is it, then we must begin to tell ourselves the truth. The government must ensure that the people who man the agencies of government and parastatals of government must be people who are sincere enough. When I was young, much younger rather, during the administration of Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, Nuhu Ribadu was head of the EFCC. We heard of all the arrests and everything that was. What is happening to EFCC and ICPC today? Because we do not hear of any activity of any, hardly, we don't hear of any arrest or any prosecution that's going on by the EFCC. Is it that we have all become saints now? Okay, this is where we are going to be drawing the curtain. I still want to apologize to the public that the book I promised that will be released, that is Blue Fantasies, have not been released. The novel I've almost completed. I promised 70,000. I've written 64,000, and due to some bureaucratic considerations, I've decided to leave it there for now because those who are involved not know what I mean. Okay. There are some people that who don't want to outshine. You cool down for them to do theirs first before you do yours. That's the way it happens here. Okay, so thank you very much for listening. And since nobody called in, you can leave your comment at the comment section of this episode. I'm still your brother and friend, MC Licky Licky Ogochukwu Okafor. Bye for now.